Good morning, everybody. We'll begin today's session. Yeah, so this is the first question. You're given here the number of circles in the figure. You're given here a graphic. You have to identify the count. You have to count the number of circles that are there in this figure. Okay. So these are all the 22 circles that are there in the figure. Yeah, this is the last one, 22nd. Okay. The total number of circles that are there are 22 in this figure. We'll move to the next one. Shown here are letters of an alphabet from A to Z. We're given here a particular font style where the letters of the alphabets are written from A to Z. How many of these letters, if flipped along the horizontal axis, can still be read as capital letters? How many of these letters can, when you flip it along the horizontal axis, they can still be read as capital letters? Okay. So these are all the 14 letters. When you flip it along the horizontal axis, will still be read as capital letters. So when you flip, for instance, in this case, it may be confusing as to how will it work. When you flip it along the horizontal axis, we get a figure which looks like this. This letter corresponds to the letter V. So henceforth, it may not look like A, but it will look like V, but still it counts because V is also a capital letter. That same thing works with C and D and also E and F, and also the M and W. So the total number of letters when you flip it along the horizontal axis, when you will read as capitals are 14 here. Okay, move to the next one. The given figure is made up of the letters L, T, H, I, E, and F, and set in different orientations. You have to find the total number of occurrences of the capital letter T in this figure. How many occurrences of the capital letter T occur in this diagram? So here, these are all the occurrences: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 occurrences of the letter T. Okay, move to the next one. You're given here a diagram. You have to count the total number of parallelograms that are there in the figure. Okay. So these are all the total number of parallelograms that are there. We'll first count individual parallelograms as 8. Then we have 3 parallelograms as combination of 3. 3 parallelograms as combination of 2 coming together. And then finally 1 big parallelogram coming together. That comes to a total of 15 parallelograms, which is the right answer. We'll move to the next one. Imagine letters are extruded into third dimensional objects, as shown in the figure on the left with letter A. If the word LOVE were to be extruded, how many surfaces would it have? Okay. Now let's start with letter by letter. In case when you're extruding, the edges become the edges of the letters, edges means the lines of the letters, they actually become the vertical surfaces. So we'll just count the how many edges are there in all the letters. With case of the letter L, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 plus top and then bottom. 8. O में you have 2, 1 and 2 plus 2. ऊपर का नीचे का surface which is 4. V you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 plus 2 which is 9. E में you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 plus 2 which is 14 surfaces. So 8 plus 4 plus 9 plus 14. Addition of all of them comes to 35. That makes love to have 35 surfaces. Okay, we'll move to the next one. You're given here a diagram. You have to count the number of unique patterns that are given in this figure. Okay, so the number of unique patterns that are there in this figure are 7. 7 unique patterns which are listed here. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Given below are 8 pieces of a puzzle. Arranged correctly, they form a 4-digit number. What is the number formed after the correct arrangement? When you rearrange this figure, we get this diagram like this, where the number read as 2, 8, 2, and 3, which is the right answer here. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Shown below is a belt and pulley arrangement. How many pulleys in this arrangement? They rotate clockwise. In this case, we are already given that a load is applied, in which case this rotates clockwise, and then finally the pulley A will rotate anti-clockwise direction. But we have to identify in between whatever pulleys are there. Of these pulleys, how many? Total number of pulleys will rotate in clockwise direction in the complete diagram. This is how the rotation will work. So A rotates clockwise. Because of that, B2 also, H also rotates clockwise. Pulley F or pulley G, which is there, also rotates clockwise. Pulley 4 also, or F pulley also rotates clockwise. E wala anti-clockwise rotate hoga. D also anti-clockwise. Pulley C clockwise, and pulley B anti-clockwise, and then finally pulley A in anti-clockwise direction. That counts a total of 5 pulleys moving in clockwise direction, and 1, 2, 3 and 4 pulleys moving in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, we'll move to the next one. 5 most recent cricket scores of 4 teams are given here. Based on this information, you have to identify the team with the most consistent performance, which means the least variance of the score, or least variance in their scores, and their average. Okay. So when I try finding the maximum and the minimum scores first, the maximum scores I've listed for all teams here. Minimum scores are listed here. The average is also listed here. When I talk about consistent performance, which means there has to be minimum variation between the maximum and the average, and the minimum and the average. So I'll then find that. Maximum or average में कितना फर्क है for all teams, and minimum or average में कितना फर्क है for all teams. When you find the least value which comes in maximum and difference between the maximum minimum values and the average, team 2 and team 3 have least variation, but 3 में यहाँ पे variation बढ़ जाता है. Henceforth, we'll select team 2 with the most consistent performance, that is least variance in score, and the average of team 2 will be written, which is 286 here. Okay, we'll move to the next one. You're given here a paragraph. You have to count the number of spelling mistakes that are there in this paragraph. How many spelling mistakes are there in the paragraph? So these are all the spelling mistakes that are there in the paragraph listed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Makes up total of 8 spelling mistakes here. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Shapes below correspond to different numbers. Choose the option that replaces the question mark. Now, in this case, when I started solving it, I started with sets. 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 4. When I reached here, that's where things started making sense. Because if I take this as 3 and this as 4, so this has to be 1 and 2, which is different from these two numbers. So that works out. With that same arrangement, if I go to the next equation, ये वाला equation becomes 1, 2 multiplied by 3 equals 3 and 4 plus something number. So this works out to be 3, 4 plus 2. 2 corresponds to this figure. So option B is the one which is the right answer here. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Given below are steps in a typical design process, but they seem to be mixed up. What is the most logical sequence of these steps? Okay, what is the most logical sequence of these steps? So when I look at the option, either it's 1, 4, or 6, which is the first step. 1 says build a business out of the idea that is designed. 4 says finding a need and locating a problem to solve and trying to understand the problem by conducting research. And 6 says ideation and coming out with initial concepts. In this case, option 4 is the one which is the most suited for, because first, in order to find any solution, we first try to locate the problem. We then try to understand the problem by conducting research. So A is wrong, D is also wrong. In the next phase, the next option says between B and C is either 6 or 3. 3 says analysis of findings, looking for insights and finding opportunities to design. Once you locate the problem, we exactly do that. We analyze the findings that we have found on portraying the problem, look for insights around it, and then find opportunities to design. Next, we move to ideation and all, but then even before that, we work around it. So option B is the one which is wrong, which says directly moving into ideation, and C is the one which is the right answer. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Given below is a write-up on the discovery of the mouse, but the sentence seems to be mixed up. What is the most correct logical sequence of these sentences? Okay. So we'll look at the options. It's first is either 4 or 1, 4 or 6. 1 says we use the mouse not because this person invented it, but because it turned out to be pointing device that performed best for pointing and clicking and all other operations. 4 says the mouse won because it was the easiest to use, and 6 says this person, Engelbart, tells the story of how he invented the mouse. So logically, your starting point has to be 6, because this person is basically telling you a story around it. That's where. So 1 is wrong and D is also wrong. Between B and C, the next one has to be 5 or 1. 5 is still in the past, so after, because he's telling a story of how he invented the mouse, he has to go to the past. So 6 ke baad 5 aega. So obviously C is wrong and B is the right answer here. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Read the following design context. You have to identify four. You have to identify here 4 recommendation that will make the most impact in the solving parking problem. You have to, the design context says the city of Mumbai is facing a severe shortage of parking spaces. The problem is acute in South Mumbai, where land is expensive and underdeveloped, land almost non-existent. A panel of experts consisting of city and town planning planners, transport engineers, designers, economists, historians, and policymakers have studied the problem carefully and have recommended a set of measures. We have to find 4 recommendations, only 4 recommendations that will make the most impact. So, recommendation says, start a free public bicycle program which encourages people to use public transport and share common bicycles. This is fine, not a problem. 2 says, allow people to download a mobile app which will allow vehicles to book parking spots up to 1 week in advance. Does not help because the number of spaces are still limited and the number of vehicles on the streets are also same. Ban vehicles with even registration on even days and odd on the odd number of days. This works because this actually reduces the number of vehicles and we have limited spots, so it helps. Next, make parking prohibitively expensive. It does not solve at all because the number of vehicles are not reduced and the spots are also remains as it is. Build more multi-storied and underground parking complexes. This works because we are increasing the space. Declare the whole South Mumbai as heritage zone and prevent any further construction and limit vehicle entry by imposing toll. Partially, but does not solve the problem. Design self-parking vehicles also does not solve the problem. Create a carpooling that connects people to share cars and number of vehicles on the roads. This works, not a problem. And make the roads more pedestrian friendly. Does not work. And institute a parking pricing mechanism which dynamically adjusts the cost of parking based on demand and supply. This works partially because you are trying to have some kind of pricing mechanism which also encourages people to use the public transport, because if it gets expensive, then there's no uncertainty at what cost they will get the parking, which means that they may try to opt for kind of long distance transport program, there's some possibility, but yeah, it can be held. So of all of these, we'll choose the option D. इसमें अगर option 8 दिया होता, it would have worked better instead of 10, but yeah, since it's not there, we'll go for option D here. Okay. With this, I will end today's session here. Thank you so much for your time.